Picture this. You've saved up for months. You finally drop cash on a Rimfire rifle. And the very first windy afternoon at the range, every single shot drifts wide of a target the size of a soda can. That's not bad luck. That's the wrong rifle. And it happens to more hunters than anyone likes to admit. Here's what nobody tells you before you buy. A bullet weighing barely 17 grains, screaming out at 2,500 feet per second, sounds unstoppable on paper. But it's basically a leaf in a hurricane the second real wind shows up past 150 yards. The gun underneath that round has to be flawless, or the round means nothing. So let's cut through the marketing noise for a minute. This list is not about which rifle looks the coolest sitting in a case. It's about which platforms actually tame that tiny, twitchy little cartridge and turn it into something that drops a prairie dog at range instead of just kicking dust 3 inches wide. 8 rifles are stepping up to prove they can do exactly that, ranked from the ones that'll get the job done to the one sitting at number 1 that honestly makes the rest look like they showed up to a gunfight with a slingshot. Rugged and built for the actual woods, the Savage B17 FVSR sits at number 8 on our list. Look, if you are on a tight budget but demand serious precision, this is where you start. This rifle slings 17 HMR downrange with sub-minute of angle accuracy that genuinely disrespects its humble price tag. It tips the scales at a breezy 5.6 pounds, making it an absolute breeze to haul through heavy brush or keep tucked behind the truck seat. Moving to the mechanics, under the hood is where Savage steals the show. They ditched traditional threading and used a barrel lock nut system directly ripped from their heavy-hitting centerfire lineup. This specific mechanism allows the factory to set the headspace with absolute zero tolerance against the bolt face, which forces that tiny 17 caliber projectile into the exact same position every single time you chamber a round. You are getting custom-level consistency out of a factory rig. When it is time to send it, the AccuTrigger is the star. It breaks like a snapped icicle, completely crisp and adjustable down to a feathery 1.5 pounds. The recoil is nothing but a polite tap against your shoulder, letting you watch your own impacts right through your traditional day scope. They even gave it a 16.25 inch heavy carbon steel barrel with a threaded muzzle that is ready for a can. But here is the truth. You will have to deal with a real annoyance. The ergonomics on the 10-round rotary magazine can be seriously frustrating in the field. When your hands are cold, or you are rushing to reload after dropping a varmint, getting that plastic block to seat perfectly flush takes way more fiddling than it should. It sets you back around $400. And honestly, for that money, I can forgive a finicky magazine. Moving on to number 7, we have a true anomaly in the precision hunting world. The Browning T-Bolt Target Varmint. This lightweight tack driver feeds on 17 HMR like nothing else, weighing in at a ridiculously light 4.9 to 5.6 pounds, depending on if you choose the 16.25 inch or the 22 inch barrel. It completely flips the script on what a manual rifle should feel like when you are out stalking in the woods. Under the hood, the engineering is wild. Instead of a traditional turn bolt, it uses a straight pull action mechanism with a specialized cross-bolt lockup that pivots outward to engage the inner receiver walls. Why does this matter? Because it cuts your physical movement in half. You just yank the bolt straight back and shove it forward, which means your cheek weld never breaks, and your eye stays perfectly locked inside your optical glass while you cycle the gun. I know the traditionalist fanboys will hate this design, but once you run a straight pull on a moving target, you will understand the hype. Sound off below if you actually trust a straight pull rig for serious field work. The recoil impulse on this rifle is just a subtle nudge. When you get on the gun, the factory gold-plated trigger breaks crisp like a glass rod snapping under pressure. But here is the deal breaker. The factory trigger weight is a real performance quirk. Listen, that 3-lever trigger mechanism looks fantastic, But out of the box, it runs incredibly heavy, sometimes pulling at over 4 pounds. If you want surgical accuracy for small targets, you will likely need to gut it and drop in an aftermarket upgrade just to get the weight down to an acceptable level. The damage to your wallet is roughly $800 for the base rifle, which makes that heavy trigger a tough pill to swallow. Stepping up the game, we are looking at a true engineering marvel, the Savage A17. Historically, getting a semi-automatic rimfire platform to reliably run high-pressure rounds was a total technical nightmare. But this rig eats 17 HMR for breakfast and constantly asks for seconds. Weighing in at exactly 5.63 pounds with a 22-inch barrel, it delivers absolute dominance for high-volume varmint control out in the real world. Diving right into the mechanics, Savage completely cracked the code by inventing a delayed blowback system that features a custom interlock lug. Here is exactly why that matters. Standard blowback actions open way too early for bottleneck rimfire cartridges, which leads to blown-out brass and seriously dangerous malfunctions. The A17 employs a mechanical lug that physically locks the bolt directly into the case-hardened receiver the millisecond you fire. It stays fully locked just long enough for chamber pressures to drop to a safe level before cycling, giving you flawless reliability without the risk. Getting behind the glass, the experience is built purely for speed. The integrated AccuTrigger drops like a heavy trapdoor, completely eliminating sloppy shooter error during rapid-fire strings. Because the semi-automatic action absorbs so much energy, the recoil is literally just a gentle shove against your shoulder. You can comfortably maintain your cheek weld, spot your own hits through traditional day optics, and immediately send follow-up shots downrange without ever having to shift your grip to work a bolt. Now let's be real about the ugly side, because the overall aesthetic has a massive deal breaker. The standard factory polymer stock feels incredibly cheap and hollow. Look, the internal steel engineering is absolutely top tier, but holding the base model feels like you are gripping a flimsy plastic toy from a discount store. It simply does not match the premium action housed inside of it. Street price runs about $459, making it an incredible bargain if you can overlook the budget furniture. Now we get serious. Taking the number 5 spot is the Tikka T1x MTR. Forged in the frozen winters of Finland, this rifle brings absolute heavy-duty reliability to the rimfire world, tipping the scales right between 6.1 and 6.5 pounds. It bridges the gap perfectly between a hunting tool and a competition trainer. Depending on your setup, you can run a 16-inch or a 20-inch cold hammer forged barrel that absolutely slings 17 HMR downrange with boring consistency. Looking at the engineering, the biggest mechanical advantage is its direct dimensional symbiosis with the Centerfire T3X platform. Here is exactly how that works to your advantage. The receiver shares the exact same bedding surfaces and inlet footprint as its larger brothers, meaning this rimfire action drops flawlessly into massive aftermarket centerfire chassis systems without requiring custom milling or adapters. You get the exact same biomechanical feel as your high-powered long-range rig. When you settle in behind your day optic and press the trigger, the brake snaps like a frozen celery stalk giving way. Because of that heavier crossover barrel profile soaking up the energy, the kick is nothing more than a faint thud against your shoulder pocket. It runs incredibly smooth, boasting that legendary bolt glide that feels like sliding wet ice across glass. Unfortunately, a frustrating financial deal breaker is waiting for you after the initial purchase. While the rifle sets you back roughly $650, the proprietary 10-round polymer magazines are outrageously expensive, draining your wallet every time you need a spare for the field. This is solid, but wait until you see the monster at number 1. It completely redefines what a rimfire rifle can actually do. Pushing into serious precision territory, the CZ457 Varmint MTR locks down the number 4 spot. This platform is a brilliant collision of old-world craftsmanship and modern machining tolerances. Tipping the scales at a hefty 7.27 pounds with a 20.5-inch heavy cylinder barrel, this rig spits 17 HMR with match-grade consistency. It completely dominates the classic wood and steel category for shooters who appreciate traditional aesthetics but demand modern performance. Looking closely at the action, the standout mechanical upgrade is the 60-degree bolt throw arc. Here is exactly why that matters in the field. Traditional rimfire actions use a 90-degree lift, which often causes your knuckles or the bolt handle to smash into the eyepiece of large modern optics. By shortening that rotation to 60 degrees, CZ allows you to mount your optical glass as low to the bore axis as physically possible, locking in your cheek weld and keeping your eye perfectly aligned with the reticle. Getting behind this rifle is an absolute experience. The factory adjustable trigger breaks perfectly clean, snapping like a piece of dry pasta. Because of that massive heavy barrel profile soaking up all the kinetic energy, the recoil is nothing but a ghostly whisper against your shoulder. You can comfortably keep your eye locked on target and watch your bullet impact right through the glass at 200 yards. Honestly, there is a glaring ergonomic deal breaker you need to accept before taking this into the woods. That massive heavy barrel makes the gun incredibly front-heavy, and hauling it through dense timber all day feels like dragging a solid steel crowbar around. It is built strictly for shooting off a bag or a bipod, not for stalking miles on foot. You will have to fork over anywhere from $581 to right around $800 depending on the exact model. But for stationary hunters, it is a masterpiece. Entering the elite tier, we are looking at the Bergara Micro Rimfire, commonly known as the BMR. Tipping the scales right between 5 and 6.6 pounds, depending on your exact configuration. This platform completely bridges the gap between a lightweight field gun and a heavy precision sniper trainer. It chucks 17 HMR out of either an 18 or 20-inch heavy contour barrel, bringing serious centerfire rifle geometry down into a highly compact package. Looking at the engineering, the true magic is hidden right inside the breech. Bergara cut a proprietary match chamber into these barrels with absurdly tight tolerances. Here is why that matters for your accuracy. It is specifically engineered to physically engrave the bullet directly into the rifling the exact second you close the bolt, ensuring perfect concentric alignment before the firing pin ever even drops. Settle in behind your optic, and the biomechanics feel incredible. The vertical pistol grip forces your hand into a perfect 90-degree angle, and the factory performance trigger fractures like a brittle piece of chalk under your finger. Because the heavy contour barrel eats up the kinetic energy, the recoil is nothing but a phantom pulse against your shoulder, keeping you glued to the target while you run the smooth bolt. Let's be real about the downside. That exact same match chamber causes a frustrating performance quirk in the field. Because the tolerances are so unbelievably tight, if you run cheap, dirty ammunition through it during a high-volume shoot, the chamber gets fouled up fast and starts causing sticky extraction issues. You have to keep it meticulously clean. Grabbing one runs right around $550 to $799, making it an absolute beast if you maintain it right. Closer to the crown, we are diving into the Ruger Precision Rimfire. This chassis setup was built to perfectly mimic a full-sized precision centerfire rifle, but it feeds exclusively on 17 HMR, tipping the scales at 6.8 pounds with an 18-inch cold hammer forged barrel. It is an absolute workhorse for the National Rifle League competitors and precision varmint hunters. It brings extreme modularity to the rimfire space without demanding a second mortgage. Looking at the mechanics, Ruger engineered a brilliant adjustable bolt throw system that sets this rig apart from the pack. Here is exactly how it works. By simply removing a heavy-duty spring clip located on the bolt, you can physically lengthen the travel path of the action, perfectly simulating the exact stroke length of a full-sized, short-action centerfire rifle. This means you can train your muscle memory for your heavy-hitting rifles using cheap rimfire ammunition, making it the ultimate tactical trainer. Settle in behind your glass, and the experience is completely locked down. The Ruger Marksman adjustable trigger snaps clean and hard, fracturing like a brittle pane of window glass under your finger. Because of that dense glass-filled nylon chassis soaking up the tiny bit of kinetic energy, the recoil is totally non-existent, kicking no harder than a heavy-duty staple gun. You stay perfectly on target, watching your impacts tear up the dirt exactly where your crosshairs rest. But let's be real about the downside. The material choices lead to a noticeable aesthetic deal-breaker. While the glass-filled nylon chassis provides immense torsional rigidity against a bipod, it is still essentially plastic, and the visible factory molding lines make the whole platform feel a bit less premium compared to a genuine machined aluminum setup. The street price sits roughly around $619, and while you get a massive 15-round rotary magazine to keep you shooting, that synthetic feel can be a tough pill to swallow for the purists. Taking the absolute throne at number 1 is the Christensen Arms Modern Precision Rifle Rimfire. This masterpiece represents the absolute apex of rimfire engineering, tipping the scales between 6.2 and 6.5 pounds depending on your barrel length. It completely dominates the field, slinging 17 HMR downrange, with a level of luxury and sub-minute of angle precision that nothing else can touch. When you want the undisputed king of the woods, this is your weapon. It takes the crown because it gives you the hyper-adjustable chassis geometry of the Ruger Precision Rimfire at number 2, but combines it with a premium match-grade chamber that completely puts the Bergara BMR at number 3 to absolute shame. You are getting center-fire quality materials in a dedicated rimfire package. They built this entire platform on a solid billet aluminum chassis featuring magnetic folding mechanisms and pure carbon fiber handguards. Diving into the mechanics, the most critical engineering feature is their proprietary carbon fiber tension barrel. Here is exactly how it works to give you an unfair advantage. They take a highly precise, ultra-thin steel core and wrap it in a custom carbon fiber matrix. Then use a specialized tension nut at the muzzle to physically stretch that internal steel core against the outer shell. This drastically stiffens the entire barrel structure and completely neutralizes the chaotic harmonic vibrations that ruin long-range accuracy, letting you stack rounds precisely on top of each other. Settle in behind your optic, and the biomechanical feedback is flawless. The factory-installed TriggerTech field unit utilizes true frictionless release technology, snapping sharply like a frozen piano wire giving out under tension. Because of that ultra-rigid carbon fiber construction absorbing the shot, the kick is absolutely invisible, feeling like a heavy drop of rain hitting your shoulder. The damage to your wallet is definitely steep, setting you back right around $1,250. But if you demand the absolute pinnacle of varmint hunting perfection, look no further. And that's the countdown, folks. 8 rifles, 1 caliber, 0 excuses left for missing that prairie dog at 200 yards. Whatever you land on, whether it's a budget savage or that carbon-wrapped monster at number 1, respect what 17 HMR can do and put in the range time to match it. Train hard, stay safe, and I will see you downrange.
เรียบร้อย